Since it was the weekend, the Raghuvanshi women had been planned a shopping trip to a newly opened lifestyle store not so far from the mansion. Both of them had been busy since morning and had already spent far more time getting ready than they had intended. Mira walked downstairs with her handbag resting on her shoulder while her mother in law was already waiting for her in the living room. I've been waiting here for so long. How many times did you change your earrings? She asked with playful sarcasm as they walked toward the main door together. Only once, Ma, Mira replied with a soft laugh. They had barely reached the entrance when Daria's voice came from behind them. Mira, she turned around and saw him coming down the staircase. He walked over to them and held out his hand. You left this in the closet. Here. He was holding the silver diamond bracelet he had gifted her on her birthday a few months ago. Mira glanced at it before looking at the jewelry she was already wearing. I didn't forget it. I saw it while I was getting ready, but it doesn't really go with this outfit, so I decided not to wear it today. You can wear one more. You have already wearing plenty anyway. He said it while still holding the bracelet off for her. His mother looked at the bracelet before looking at him, clearly not understanding him. She's already wearing enough jewelry. Let her wear it another day. For a moment, Dara didn't respond. He simply looked at Mira's wrist before extending the bracelet towards her once again. Wear it, Mira. His tone wasn't demanding, but it carried enough certainty that both women looked at him in mild surprise. Mira frowned in confusion before letting out a small smile. Dara, please. I don't want to wear it today. Look at my hands. They are already full of gold jewelries. The silver bracelet won't match. Please. I just want you to wear this today. That's all. He remained where he was, quietly blocking their way without saying another word. There was nothing unusual in his expression, yet his insistence felt strangely out of place. There had never been someone who commented on what she wore. In fact, he had always liked whatever she chose for herself. Realizing that he wasn't going to change his mind, Mira finally stretched out her hand. Dahlia gently fastened the bracelet around her wrist, making sure the clasp was securely locked before letting go. There, don't take it off, okay? After realizing that his word must have sounded unusual, he softened his tone and gave Mira a small smile, hoping she would not think too much about it. Mira glanced at the bracelet on her wrist and then at Dara, who gave her a small smile, but she could still sense that something was off just by looking at him. Her mother in law nudged her, telling her to hurry up, and without thinking any further, the two of them left, leaving Dara behind as he looked down at his smart watch. After spending nearly 3 hours moving from one section to another, both ladies finally made their way to the billing counter where a few customers were already waiting in line. Mira handed the trolley to a staff member who began checking and scanning their purchases, while another employee carefully folded the item into branded shopping bags. She stood beside the scanning machine, which was used to verify that all the items had been billed correctly. Mira had just reached for her card to make the payment when a loud, piercing siren cut through the pleasant chatter inside the store. Beep, beep, beep. The alarm was so loud that the bustling conversation. Mira looked around in confusion, waiting for the alarm to stop or for someone to switch it off. but with each passing second, the shrill noise only grew louder, making the silence around her feel even heavier. People across the store stopped minding their own business and quietly turned their attention toward the billing area, trying to figure out what was happening. A security officer hurried over with a handheld detector and walked toward the scanning machine beside which Mira was standing. The scanner display was already flashing a bright red warning light. As the officer slowly moved the detector around the area, it remained silent until it came near Mira. Instantly, the detector's screen began flashing red, and the device erupted in a continuous piercing tone. The officer stopped moving the detector for a moment before gradually bringing it closer to Mira, who was still clueless about what was happening. As the detector came nearer to Mira, the signal became stronger, and the handheld machine started beeping continuously in a loop. The red warning light kept flashing, indicating that some kind of electronic device was present around Mira. Mira's eyes shifted between the security officer and the detector in his hand, unable to understand why everyone had suddenly become so serious. The loud alarm around the store had finally fallen silent, but the handheld detector continued flashing an unsettling red light. The officer didn't say a word. Instead, he looked at a female security staff member and signaled her for her to come over. Within moments, she walked over and took the scanning device from his hand. Mira and her mother in law exchanged a confused glance. Mira was about to say something when the female officer interrupted her. Excuse me, ma'am, we would like you to come with us for a few minutes. Mira frowned, not understanding what they wanted from her. For what reason? Is there any problem? Mira's mother in law immediately questioned them, sensing that something wasn't right. We will explain everything once we are in a private place. There are a lot of people here, and we don't want to disturb anyone. No, you can explain it here. My daughter in law has not done anything. By now, the people around them had stopped pretending not to watch. Curious whispers began spreading across the checkout area, making both Mira and her mother in law uncomfortable. At least tell me what's going on. I don't understand what's happening, and you are starting to scare me. The female officer exchanged a brief look with the senior security officer before speaking carefully. Ma'am, our security system has detected something that requires immediate verification. Until we determine exactly what it is, we request your cooperation. The officer glanced once again at the handheld detector. The red warning light was still blinking with the same pace. Verification? Verification of what? At the moment, we can't say anything for certain because we are not sure yet. We simply need to make sure there's nothing inside the store that could pose a security concern. The words were calm, but they were enough to make the people standing nearby look at Mira differently. The whispers grew louder, and a few customers instinctively took a step back, as if keeping their distance was a safer choice. Mira looked from one officer to another, unable to understand why they were speaking as though she might be carrying something dangerous. When she had walked into the store with nothing more than her handbag and shopping bags. Mira, won't you talk to me? He asked softly, his face reflecting quiet concern. The moment he walked onto the terrace, he had sensed that something was terrible. Ever since he had entered the house, something had felt off. Shobha had only said that Mira had been quiet since returning from the mall and had come straight to the rooftop. She had not smiled, had not spoken to anyone, and had not even gone to her room first. The evening drifted by quietly as Mira sat alone on a chair in the corner of the terrace. Her eyes remained fixed beyond the mansion walls, staring at the fading horizon, but her mind was nowhere near the view before her. Seeing her sitting there, so distant and lost in her own thoughts, stirred an unsettling feeling in his chest. Without a word, he walked towards her and stopped in front of her, waiting for her to look up and answer him, but she remained silent. Mira, what happened? You've barely spoken to anyone since you came home. You haven't even looked at me. At least talk to me. Mira looked at him for a long moment before speaking. Talk to you? Why? You already seem to know everything about me, don't you? Where I am, who I'm with. So, what so difference does it make whether I tell you anything or not? Dara's expression slowly shifted from concern to confusion. Her words didn't make little sense to him at first as he searched her face, trying to understand what had upset her so much. She had gone to shopping that morning, the one thing he knew always made her happy, yet she returned with nothing but sadness. Mira, what happened? Even Ma didn't tell me anything. Why are you saying this? You both were so excited in this morning. So, what happened there? Did something happen to you? Do I need to do something? Please tell me. He walked closer to her and lowered himself onto one knee in front of her, gently taking her hand onto his. His grip warmed and reassuring as he searched her eyes for an answer. Mira lowered her eyes to the hand holding hers. For a brief moment, she simply looked at their intertwined finger before gently slipping her hand out of his grasp. A faint smile touched her lips, but there was no warmth behind it, and that didn't stop her. You know, the whole time they were questioning me, I kept wondering if I had done something wrong without even realizing it. The hairs both drew together, questioning. The single word immediately unsettled him, but he held himself back. Instead of interrupting, he remained where he was, patiently waiting for her to speak. They took Ma and me into a separate room. They kept scanning me again and again, but no one would tell us what they were looking for. Every answer I gave only seemed to make them more suspicious. His jaw tightened and his eye darkened as he finally understood where all of this had happened. Even then, he remained silent, letting her speak. She had held everything inside since afternoon, and he wasn't going to interrupt her now. Mira looked straight into his eyes, refusing to look away. Do you know what they were searching for? She paused, letting out a quiet breath before continuing. A GPS tracker hidden inside my this bracelet. For the first time since he had come upstairs, Thea lowered his gaze to the bracelet around her wrist. Why, Dharya? Her voice remained calm, but the disappointment behind it was impossible to miss. Why did you hide a tracker inside my bracelet? Is that why you insisted I should wear it this morning? Even when I told you it didn't go with my outfit, you still wouldn't let me leave without it. The whole time, everyone kept looking at me as if I had done something wrong. No one actually called me a criminal, but they didn't have to. People kept whispering, the security staff wouldn't answer my questions, and I could feel everyone staring at me as though I was hiding something dangerous. Do you know how humiliated that felt? I couldn't even bring myself to pick up the shopping bag we would spend hours choosing. A heavy silence settled between them. Daria closed his eyes for a brief moment before speaking again. I'm sorry, Mira. The words came out without hesitation. He gently took the bracelet from her hand, turning it over between his fingers before speaking again. I should have told you about the tracker. Keeping it from you was my mistake. But never think, even for a second, that it was because I didn't trust you. He raised his eyes to hers and quickly reached for her hands again, holding them gently between his own. It wasn't to stop her from pulling away, it was simply his silent way of reassuring her that he was there. It was there for one reason only. His voice was barely above a whisper, because I was worried about your safety. Mira remained quiet. The sincerity in his voice was impossible to ignore. Yet the humiliation she had felt that afternoon wasn't something she could simply leave behind. After a long moment, she slowly slipped her hand from his and stood up from the chair. Tara followed almost immediately, his eye fixing on her face, waiting for some sign of what she was thinking. Next time, if something is worrying you this much, don't carry it alone. I'm your wife, Daria. You don't have to protect me by hiding the truth from me. Just let me stand beside you. Daria nodded, a smile of relief tugging faintly at the corner of his lip. No more secrets. Mira didn't answer. She simply gave him a small note before quietly making her way towards their bedroom, wanting nothing more than the peace that room had always given her while he remained behind, knowing there was still one thing he had to take care of before joining her. The moment Mira walked inside, Thaya pulled out his phone and made a call. Get me the complete CCTV footage from today's incident at the lifestyle store. I want it on my phone immediately. The call lasted less than a minute. Barely a few minutes later, the footage arrived on his phone and he started watching the recording from the beginning to end in complete silence. By the time it ended, the calm on his face has disappeared. Without wasting another second, he dialed the store manager number. I have just watched the CCTV footage. His voice remained composed, but every word carried quiet authority. I'm not interested in hearing your protocol, this and that. But the way my wife was spoken to, the way she was made to stand there while everyone watched, and the way she was treated before the facts were even established, that was completely unacceptable. He paused, listening to the manager on the other end, doing everything he could to keep his temper in check. I expect a personal apology to Mrs. Ragwanshi, along with the shopping she was unable to bring home today. I trust your management will ensure that no customer is made to go through something like this again, or you know what could happen. Understood? I believe.